Hi there guys, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero show with me, your host Simon Conboy. Carrying on with the season preview series today, this episode we will be focusing on the Minnesota Vikings. As always, I'll be going through the projected offensive and defensive starters. Of course, we're only a couple of weeks away from the regular season, so I'm pretty convinced this is how things will end up looking. If not, it won't be too far off. I'll then be breaking down what I believe are the key areas for this team in terms of the schedule. Won't be going through each game, but the major areas they're going to have success if they are going to make a run at the playoffs. Before going through what I believe are the three key areas that have to work out for this team in 2017. So we'll hop in with the offensive starters, and at quarterback we will once again see Sam Bradford, who was solid last year. Wasn't the most impressive, incredibly dink and dunk season. I mean, he set a record for completion percentage, but they were not high difficulty throws for the most part. Was let down by a terrible offensive line and played reasonably as a result. He is what he is. I think he's in that kind of Alex Smith zone of uninspiring but solid starters. It'll be interesting to see if with another year with the players and some better protection, if he can show some of the talent that made him a number one overall pick. But he's a steady hand. Running back, I believe Dalvin Cook will get the start. He's just far too talented not to. I'm a Florida State fan, so I saw his college career. Definitely a more talented player than Latavius Murray, who I think will be a solid number two. He's an okay power back. Cook has a great all-round skill set. He's fast, he's elusive, he can catch, and he's got more power than people think. I think he's going to be a top player. I think with the run blocking this team had last year, we may not necessarily see it early on. Might be a bit of a Melvin Gordon type situation. But as things improve, I'm sure he's going to end up being a stud for this team. So I think they've got a lot of potential in terms of the backfield. It's just whether they're allowed to show it. As I say, Murray, a perfectly serviceable number two. Wide receiver, not the most explosive group, but a very good group of possession receivers. Stephon Diggs is a fine player. Does well in the intermediate and short game. Adam Thielen really came on towards the end of last season. I think he showed enough to think he'll probably go into the season as the number two. Much like Diggs, just a very good possession receiver. Although he did show an ability to get down the field, which this team does need someone to stretch the field in the passing game. He could end up being that guy. And Laquan Treadwell, last year's first round pick, who did absolutely nothing. Now, I thought he was going to come in and be productive from the beginning because of, whilst he's not a great runner, he doesn't have great quickness. In college, he made a living on 50-50 balls, making difficult catches. I thought that skill set would translate well and would make him a good red zone weapon. We'll see if that can come together this year. I'm confident he'll be given an opportunity. It is his second year as a former first round pick. As I say, this group may lack some explosiveness, but considering the type of offense this team's likely to run, I think they're going to be should be effective enough. A lot does come down to whether Treadwell can give them anything at the position. At tight end, Kyle Rudolph, who's really kind of burst on the scene early in his career and kind of floundered a little since. He's still a fine player. I think some of the struggles this team's had passing the ball haven't exactly helped him. Not the most athletic of guys, but he's very good in the red zone. And he's got good hands, decent athlete, not a top-end athlete, especially in today's NFL where you've got some real freaks at that position. So he could end up being one of the primary receivers this year. I think he could be in line for a bit of a kind of a second breakout season. Moving to the aforementioned offensive line, there's been a bit of a rebuild, and there did have to be. They were incredibly poor last year. They signed up Riley Reef to man the blind side. I'm slightly concerned about that. He's not the best pass blocker, but he's certainly an upgrade over Khalil for them. So, addition by subtraction. And Mike Remmers who again is a tackle that struggles in pass protection, as he did for the Panthers. Probably an upgrade over what they had last year, but these guys, I think they'll be good run blockers, but I am concerned how they're going to handle some of the high-end speed rushers in this league. The guard position, Alex Boone, who had some really good seasons with the Niners, struggled to replicate that success. We'll see if he can make a bit of a comeback. Again, a good run blocker, so they may be able to make some hay in that regard. And I suspect Joe Berger will also line up at guard, but I think this spot may be open to competition. Similarly, at centre, Nick Easton, it seems like he's been penciled in as the starter. I can't imagine there being a change at this point. I need to see a bit more of him, maybe with a bit more talent around him. He may have a bit more success this year. And at kicker, Kai Forbath. This offence, I can't see them being a particularly dangerous group this year. I think they'll be fairly conservative. Bradford's not going to turn the ball over a huge amount. The offensive line is going to dictate how they can do. Last year they had no run game, and Bradford could not set up to throw deep, so they were very limited. This year there is more talent there, so they might play a very grindy West Coast kind of style. If they can just get some production from this passing game, a little bit of explosiveness out of it, and if Dalvin Cook can have a great season, they could be decent. But I just see them being a fairly low end group. However, they're not going to have to score a huge amount of points. This is, for my money, one of the best defensive units in the league, and they are incredibly well coached. So you look at the defensive end position, Everson Griffin has turned into a very good player, plays the run and the pass well, was very close to making my top 100 players list. And Danielle Hunter, who played very well last year, gives them another edge rusher. They do have a little bit of depth at that position as well. Defensive tackle, they've been very unfortunate with Sharif Floyd. It'll be interesting to see if he can get himself back on the field. However, Linval Joseph has become a very effective defensive tackle for this team. Much like Griffin, he's a balanced player who does everything to a reasonably high level, can get some pressure, plays the run very well, and I suspect Dayton Jones has an opportunity. I think this second defensive tackle spot, unless Sharif Floyd can recover, is open. And Jones has a lot of talent, he's just not shown it at this point in his career. Zimmer is a fantastic coach, so I'm putting faith in him being able to get something out of him, but it's certainly possible this spot will go elsewhere. The outside linebacker position, Anthony Barr has become a really good versatile player for this team. He can set the edge, can rush the passer, can play coverage pretty well. He's a very good young player. Emmanuel Lamar will be the third backer. He'll be off the field. A lot of the time the team will play a lot of nickel, I suspect. And middle linebacker Eric Kendricks is also a very good player. Not the rangiest of middle linebackers in this league, but he's a good thumper. Reads the game really well and does a good job getting this linebacker group in the right positions. The cornerback spot, this is a real strength for this team, particularly if Trey Waynes can really get himself in the game. Xavier Rhodes had an amazing season last year. He was a stud. He's still a young player. He could continue to get better. Can run with guys. Is a good willing tackler. Can play man. Not a lot of great man corners in the league at the moment. The aforementioned Trey Waynes, I think he'll get a shot on the outside. If he can develop, because he's got a great physical skill set, particularly for today's game. He's one of the larger receivers. If he can get that little bit of quickness, play a bit faster, he could be good for this team. Terrence Newman just somehow keeps on going. At some point he's got to fall off, but for now I've got him in the slot. And just going to stop doubting him until he stops playing at a reasonable level. So this is potentially a very good group. And at safety, one of my favourite players in the league, Harrison Smith, who somehow flies under the radar every season, but he's an absolute top safety. We saw a significant decline in this defence's production when he was missing. He gets everything organised. He's the leader of this defence, and he does a great job. He doesn't get beat over the top often at all. He does a great job as the last line defence. He's a willing tackler and just reads the game incredibly well at that spot. And I suspect Andrew Sendejo will be the other safety for this team. He's got some experience. And the punter, Ryan Quigley. I'm a big fan of this group. This front seven is really good. They've got talent at every level and pretty high-end talent at that. Re-signed a bunch of these guys, so they're going to be together for a while. And Zimmer is a fantastic coordinator as the head coach. So I've seen no reason for this group to fall off. They've got youth, they've got talent, they're getting more experience. I expect them to just continue to progress. There are some depth concerns because of the Sharif Floyd situation has been very unfortunate for them. But if this group can stay healthy, I expect them to be one of the better defensive units in the league. And if this team's going to make a push this season for the playoffs in the division, it's going to come from these guys. They're a stellar bunch. And in terms of this season, last year they went 8-8, after a really hot start. Then the offense just fell apart. As I say, the defense struggled when Harrison Smith went missing. Ended up finishing 8-8. I think this year they'll improve that slightly. I think they'll go 9-7. I just don't think this offense is going to be good enough for this team to compete. It's certainly possible with the defence being as good as I expect it to be that this team makes the playoffs, but I think this year they just about miss out. Mainly, I think the start of the schedule is a bit difficult and it's going to be vital that they come out of the traps well early, and I just think this offense is going to struggle to put up the points even with the defence there, because they've got the Saints, the Steelers, then the Buccaneers. Even the Lions can put up some points on their day. The Bears followed by the Packers. I mean, that's all of their, half of their divisional slate and three very good offensive teams. I could easily see this team going maybe 2-4 in that stretch, and I'm just not sure they'd be able to dig themselves out of that hole. So unless they come out fast, I just see them really struggling to make a push for the playoffs. End of the season, that game against the Packers, I think, is going to be huge in week 16. But yeah, if this team gets off to a fast start, I think the schedule really does have a nice middle. They'll be able to get themselves back on track. They've got a bye week, right when you want it, right in the middle of the season. So fast start, absolutely essential. If they can get that, I think they can maybe sneak in and compete with the Packers for the division title. However, for that to happen, for me, there's three key areas that are going to have to perform. The offensive line, it's just simply got to be better than last season. Otherwise, this team is going to struggle to even match the record from last year. They couldn't run the ball at all. They didn't have a huge amount of talent in the backfield. That certainly improved this year. But you've got to give them something. And the pass protection, they couldn't aggressively attack teams with the pass, and they simply chose not to. They were aware this offensive line was bad. You could see it in the way they were calling plays. You're not going to beat teams with the attack that this team fielded last year, and that all centred on the fact this offensive line just could not block anyone. There's a lot of new players. If they come together quickly, then we could see effectively a totally different team on the offensive side of the ball. But they will need some big plays. Last year, this team just did not find explosive plays. Bradford's never been great as a player in terms of generating those big pass plays. They do have a runner in Dalvin Cook who can generate them, but I think there's going to have to be some explosiveness in the passing game. Whether that comes from the tight end spot with Kyle Rudolph feasting on teams over the middle of the field, or Adam Thielen, we'll see. I think Treadwell is going to have to step up, or there's going to have to be another receiver step up for this to be the case. Because whilst I do like Diggs and Thielen, I like Diggs as a player. I like what Thielen showed towards the end of last year. I don't think they're top-end players that are going to scare any teams and not going to be regularly burning people. So they're going to have to try and find some way of generating big splash plays on the offensive side of the ball, particularly when you look at some of the teams that they are playing against this season. And the defensive line, this defense starts up front. It's how it's always been with most 4-3 teams operate that way, but particularly Mike Zimmer's scheme. The secondary's got talent, the backers have talent, and so does the defensive line. I just worry a little bit about the depth. If they have a couple of injuries, I think that this defensive unit could fall off. We saw last year again, Harrison Smith, he has to stay healthy, but Linval Joseph for me might be the key. I think if he was to get hurt, the entire defensive integrity of this team would suffer as a result. Much like when Geno Atkins was hurt in Cincinnati, it just wasn't the same group. So he absolutely has to stay healthy. The D-line does as a whole. This team starts, one of the strengths of them is they can play so much 7-man coverage because of this group, with the odd Anthony Barr blitz sprinkled in. They keep it simple, they do it well, but that starts with the defensive line being able to put out its big names on a down-by-down basis. So there you have it. That's my analysis of the 2017 Minnesota Vikings. I'm a big fan of Mike Zimmer, so I do want to see this team succeed. I think this offense, I just think they're a year or so away from being able to produce on the level you need to have a successful regular season. So, yeah, let us know. What do you guys think? Are there any players I should be keeping my eye on? Do you think I'm a bit too down on this offensive line? It is a new group. It could be entirely different, and if they play well, who knows? This team has got a lot of potential, but I just don't see it. I'm not a huge fan of the guys they brought in. Feel the team was a little hamstrung though. But give us a shout. We got the comment section below. Cover Zero Facebook page. Find me on Twitter at Simon Conboy. Always happy to talk football. And check out some of the other episodes. I've only got 2 more left in the series after this. We've started up a roundtable series, me and a couple of my friends. I think they've been interested, just us talking ball. I think they're well worth a watch. And there's plenty of stuff, Did a lot of work over the summer on the channel. So if you've enjoyed this, definitely check some of that stuff out. I'm sure you'll enjoy that too. And if you could like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon. All that stuff helps. Really, really do appreciate it. As I always do, anyone who watches the show, thank you so much for watching. It's a pleasure as always. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great evening and go Bucks.